Hello and welcome to the podcast. What podcast you ask? This podcast. The podcast that is called Tim and Joel Call It in the Ring. I'm Tim.
Hey, and I'm Joel. Tim, we're doing it again.
We're doing it again. And it's fall. It's fall time now. It's like cool and crisp and refreshing.
Yep. And I am at that point in my... So I go out for a walk every morning around 7 a.m. I get up. It's brisk. It's great. And now is the time of year where I can make that wonderful fashion faux pas known as wearing shorts and a hoodie.
I don't care for that. I wish I didn't know that about you now.
Well, maybe what you'll care more about is a little bit of wrestling. How about that? That's why we're here. That's what we do. And we do it every single week.
I guess, but now you've made me think of what the Young Bucks came out wearing. And yeah, they're not only assaulting referees now, but fashion.
Well, it's only 10 grand, right?
Only 10 grand.
Most of us just have it sitting around the back pockets, and most of us can just toss it at our bosses as we walk through the back room.
Yeah, I absolutely believe the Young Bucks are raking in like that type of throwaway money.
Honestly, that's like 2 days of pro wrestling tees sales for them. Yep.
That's fair. Good for them.
All right. Well, first of all, a little something that popped in my head, and I saw it on Twitter earlier today. You know, it's been 3 years since we lost Bobby the Brain Heenan, and that is... It's sad. I can't believe it's 3 years, and hopefully Brain is enjoying the wrestling that he's able to watch upstairs, and he's able to spend all of his time with his buddies up there. So, just hey Bobby, hope you're doing well, and you ready to talk some wrestling?
Yeah.
Tim, let's talk some wrestling.
Okay.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to start it with a really weird way, and we're going to talk about Matt Riddle and Candy Cartwright. As some of you may know, with the Speaking Out movement back in June, there were a lot of names that came to light and a lot of accusations, a lot of stories that were told, and a lot of instances of both women, men, anybody coming out and talking about toxic situations that have occurred to them in professional wrestling, some even deemed outside. One of them happened to be Candy Cartwright, whose real name is Samantha Tavers, or Tavers. I'm apologizing now if I'm mispronouncing her name. And Matt Riddle, who many would know from NXT and now on WWE SmackDown. I'm just going to go through a little bit of what I have in my notes. To be perfectly honest, David Bixenspan, who is like the internet's pro wrestling investigative journalist, he wrote an entire article on his baby face versus heel website, and if you have a chance, go check it out. He really had a lot to say about it, and he had a lot of really good points. Really, the most important thing to know is that right now there was a petition that Matt Riddle had set up against Cartwright for cyber stalking specifically, and he withdrew the petition on Monday, September 7th, and that was 3 days before the court date was set to go to trial, or at least there was supposed to be further conversation in court about it. So to go back a little bit, Cartwright accused Riddle of the sexual assault during the relationship. Riddle is married. His wife found out about the affair, has taken Matt's side, and they have kind of tag teamed this whole thing together against Candy Cartwright. I'll just keep using her ring name, to be honest. Yeah. Riddle then accused Cartwright of cyber stalking, following by a petition to have a temporary restraining order issued against her. Riddle's court doc said that Cartwright, quote, threatened harm to him and people close to him, threatened to use weapons and destruction of personal property. Cartwright's lawyer, Allison Lovelady, who, with help from Time's Up Legal Defense Fund, they filed a dismissal, noting there was a lack of evidence. Again, going back to the Bixenspan article, this whole thing was withdrawn, the petition, 3 days before the court date. And now Daniel Rose, who is Matt Riddle's attorney, and Matt Riddle have announced that they are planning on filing a defamation lawsuit. There is no lawsuit filed as of 3 p.m. today. So I don't know what to say. Honestly, I'm probably the wrong person to even talk about what's going on in Speaking Out. All I can say is believe those who come forward. There is a lot of back and forth, but man, just believe the victims. That's the one thing I can take from this. If we're going to take it to a wrestling story that we talk about how these stories impact wrestling. Matt Riddle, obviously his push has been taken down. He's been cooled down. His feud with Baron Corbin is obviously on hold, considering Corbin is now pivoted and he's with Sheamus going up against Roman Reigns and Jey Uso in their storyline. Tim, I just threw a lot at you. Please give me something.
Yeah, so I actually read that article today, And like, I don't typically stay super on top of all this stuff. I am pretty on top of the speaking out movement and most of what's happened with that. It sounds like he was going to get hit with like anti-slap stuff is what the article said, which makes a lot of sense to me because there wasn't a whole lot to, like there was nothing to validate the allegations he was making. And honestly, like the allegations sound like boilerplate stuff, but the restriction, like the just having it for the performance center was what really kind of showed its true colors, as that article had mentioned. What I will say, honestly, is that this is a pointless mess. I don't understand why WWE would put up with it. But you know, they've got a few of those. If they were a more sensible business, I think it would just be easier to wash their hands of it and drop Riddle, but whatever.
Yep. Unfortunately, with WWE, we've seen that's not really something that they'd like to do, considering who we're seeing wrestle currently on NXT, who have also been embroiled in speaking out.
Yep.
So I think we're kind of stuck right now where it's going to be interesting to see what more comes from the Riddle and Cartwright story. It's a lot, and going through that article from Bix and Span is a lot. If you have a chance, go and read through it. I think there's going to be more to it as it kind of unfolds. Speaking of unfold, because this is the amazing news segment that we have, on the front page, you saw it, Sasha Banks is going to be on The Mandalorian. Just give her the SmackDown title now, I guess, right? Is there going to be a tie-in? The air date for The Mandalorian is October 30th. Hell in the Cell is October 25th. Do you think WWE attempts a tie-in?
They absolutely should. Like, if they want more viewers and therefore more money. I think that'd be very wise. Like, people pour over Star Wars content as in depth as they pour over wrestling content. So I think it will bring in more interest as if they do it right. So they absolutely should. I think that's really cool. And as a guy who's not like a huge Star Wars fan, but my wife is, I've had to endure a lot of it, but I actually enjoy The Mandalorian, which is nice.
Well, hello to our boy Throwback, who's in the chat and says, Baby Yoda says hi, and that trailer was amazing. Yes, it was. And I think the entire wrestling and Star Wars universe, as sometimes questionable as they can be sometimes, they are going to enjoy, I think, what Sasha brings to the table, and the kind of product that The Mandalorian has. Season 1 was obviously very well received, and now Season 2 has a lot to live up to. So I'm looking forward to it. In terms of tie-in, I do have to say, when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, Vince didn't really give a damn about that and didn't do anything with Batista and his time in WWE when he came back.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. Sucks. Batista's great in that. Also not a huge superhero fan. I enjoy the Guardians of the Galaxy films.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So we're still talking about women's wrestling. Last Monday night on Raw, we had a match between Asuka and Mickie James, and that match had a very awkward ending. It's been talked about all throughout the week. We do our show on Thursday, so obviously now all the talk has basically subsided, but we're going to go through it a little bit as well. Listen, sounds like the referee made a mistake. He may have thought that Mickie James was injured. It looked like when Mickie kind of rolled over from the Asuka lock, that's when he decided to call the match. It looked like, if you take a look, it looks like he may have thrown up the X, which in wrestling talk means that someone is legitimately injured. However, I can't guarantee it. It's what it looks like looking at the way his hands are, and he is not fully on screen at the time.
Yeah, I didn't really see the X. I saw him reacting to like that. I saw the kind of sort of tap way in that people had, but I don't know.
So on the bump this past week, Mickie did say, "I'm fine," and I don't know what happened. So I think at this point, you kind of have to go back and do this match properly, right?
Yeah, I mean,
some sort of redemption story.
They got most of the match in, but that ending was so weird. And like the referee held up the title, and he looked a little uncomfortable. Maybe he was having a hard time and just wanted to get it over. But he did look like he needed a washroom break when he lifted that title up to start that match.
And then right after the match, you had Zelina Vega come out. We'll talk a little bit about more when we get into our favorites and our nopes.
Actually,
I know.
I want to say something about that. So like my other little theory, maybe Vince, like Mickie was looking a little sloppy periodically in that match. Maybe Vince was like, nah, end this. And then he's like, throw Zelina Vega in the mix, and now she's involved. Which, I don't know. They've done they did the screw job. So
It's entirely possible. There's two stories that came out this week. One of which was actually that Zelina Vega in an interview said that Vince McMahon loves her and like compared her to Stephanie, which if you can see the look on Tim's face right now, if you're listening after the fact, it's not a very smiley look. Let's put it like that.
I look like that referee at the start of the match.
Well, it basically was that Zelina came out and said her piece, said that she is done managing. She wants to take a run at wrestling, which she's a great wrestler. I'd love to see it. I don't necessarily want to see her jump right into the women's title picture, but if it's going to happen, I just want them to do the rest of this Mickie and Asuka story and do it right, get it through properly.
Yeah, absolutely. It just came out of nowhere. It felt clunky.
Yeah.
It's weird, like Zelina coming out after. So I don't know. No problem with her. It just out of nowhere kind of thing.
Last week we talked about Ivar, just pivoting a little bit that way. He might be injured. It turns out that what may have been a stinger actually might have him require neck surgery.
That's the hell?
I know. We're waiting to hear what that actually is, or what the injury is, if he actually required the neck surgery. I haven't followed up since this morning. But I mean, listen, they can do one of two things. They can have Eric, his tag team partner, go solo, or he can be kept off TV like most tag teams are done. He tapped out to the full Lashley on Monday, or the Whip Lashley, as you like to call it.
It is better. I mean, he didn't whip him around on Monday, but he could.
So the question is, does Eric get written off TV, or do they do a little bit more with him?
No, I like Eric, but it's just like I like the Viking Raiders, and I think it would kind of screw with them a little bit if they keep him going. I'm surprised Ivar's injury is as severe as it is, because like that bump looked kind of funny. Like it didn't look that bad, but that's how you get hurt in weird ways. Like,
and that's the thing with Ivar. He has been doing that bump since New Japan. He's been doing it for a very long time, and to a lot of people's credit, they have been almost not in a negative way, but they've almost been waiting for something to happen. It was almost inevitable in some eyes, because he keeps doing that. He's a big guy, and he'll do this big through the ropes tope, and he'll wipe everyone out, but you're not going to hit it in that 100% of the time. You're just a diving missile at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, like the injury itself is kind of funny, because I would expect like concussion, like just head to head contact or head to elbow, but damn.
Well, you said it's funny.
Yeah.
What else is funny, or at least a little questionable, is the fact that for the second week in a row, Tom Phillips has been off Raw. We have our own questions. And if he's back next week, I'll have even more questions. Meanwhile, Randy Orton was gone for, quote, personal reasons this week. And Samoa Joe was off for the first time in this whole pandemic. And Dolph and MVP took over. Dolph Ziggler, of course, did a great job, and then eventually had to leave to do Raw Underground. MVP took over on commentary. MVP has been doing commentary for Main Event for the last little while, so this wasn't a huge, step in the wrong direction for MVP. It's something he's pretty used to.
Yeah, he's great. It was good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do have in my notes here a little bit about WrestleVotes, and something that they said about a wrestler leaving very soon. It was very cryptic. And here's the thing: wrestlers are always, quote, leaving really soon, maybe not re-signing, or then they do at the last minute. But a lot of speculation around the horn is turning into Ricochet. Maybe he's not happy with how he's being used. I don't know what it's going to be, but I do feel like bringing it up because I think it's really interesting when people who have not only sources, but also have a lot of sway in terms of how the internet perceives wrestling news. When you bring up something so vague, it's not always the best thing to do.
I mean, it discredits you to do that, to do this clickbaity nonsense. It's like, oh, my source doesn't want to talk. And it's like, okay, that's one way of doing things. But when you do that, you remove the credibility or trust that people might have with you, because it's just not something that like real journalists do. They don't just tease things. I mean, playing into it, I'm not happy with how Ricochet is being used, so I'd be fine if he left. I think he could do a lot better elsewhere, but well, I don't know. Like it's a rumor.
To WrestleVote's credit, they have had a lot of breaking news, or at least conversations that have become breaking news. They seem to be kind of ahead of everything when it comes to wrestling news. They do have legitimate sources,
Okay.
where for a long time they didn't, and they were almost completely disbarred by most people who talk wrestling. It's changed since then.
Oh, okay.
But speaking of WrestleVotes, there was another tweet that they sent out that I found just particularly interesting, and I wanted to bring up for discussion. Here was the tweet from earlier. Interesting idea that was discussed but turned down. Kofi Kingston would return to Raw while Big E would stay on SmackDown. Both remain as part of the New Day, including the gear and the music, just on separate brands. Here's the other twist. Xavier Woods would serve as a manager type, appearing on both shows. So Woods would represent Kofi on Raw and represent Big E on SmackDown. How do you feel about that?
Why? But like, I mean, that's my only question. Like, there's no. The main shows treat tag teams in the weirdest way, and like the Undisputed Era has had like Adam Cole just be a singles competitor without issue. They can just be a team and come out and be buddies and support their pal while they wrestle. Like I don't get why that feels necessary to them. Like they've talked about breaking up the New Day like a bunch of times in the past, right? Like, and they don't want to do it, and I'm glad for that. Like there should be kind of staples or long-standing groups. I don't see an issue with that. They should just be comfortable with it and right within it. Like,
see, I like the idea of having long-standing domination on both sides of the brands. Have Kofi dominate Raw, maybe even become WWE champion. Have Big E become Universal champion. Let's say this all happens during the summertime and they take it into the fall, and then we get into Survivor Series. What usually happens at Survivor Series? It's the quote only time of year when Raw, SmackDown, and now NXT are in direct head-to-head competition. So it's a great way to tell a story of Kofi and Big E running their brands and having full dominance, but also telling the story of who's going to win between these two and what side does Xavier take, because he's going to have to take someone's side, right? In brand domination.
yeah, I mean, I can see that being useful. It's just with three guys, I think it'd be a little bit tough. Like, I think I get what you're saying with the like Xavier being caught between mommy and daddy, I guess. But like,
Who's daddy in this one?
Big E.
It's Big E.
It's obviously Big E, without question. Yeah, I think that would work better with like a group of like 4 or 5 people, but yeah, I can see that point too. Done right, it would be okay, but I mean, I just don't think it could do it right.
Yeah, no, it would take a lot to do it right.
Yeah.
But what was done right is that Wade Barrett, also known as Stu Bennett, who was a commentator with the NWA until very recently, is now taking a new commentary job. He signed a commentary gig with NXT for 1 year with extension options. And now Barrett is going to join Vic Joseph and Beth Phoenix at the announce desk. Tim, what do you think?
Cool. I like him. He was great last night. Like he's good. He's a good, suitable replacement. He's not quite this. He doesn't have quite the same flavor as Mauro, but it's good.
I like the story that he told last night with his. He's afraid of Shotzi Blackheart. He doesn't want to like approach her because he thinks that she's gonna like steal his soul or something. I was a fan of that. Yeah. There was a lot of just interesting social media type storytelling that came from that. I like what he's going to bring to the table personally.
No, he's fun. It's good. No complaints. Again, NXT doing the right things.
They're also doing a lot of things, including another NXT takeover on Sunday, October the 4th. It's another rare Sunday takeover. The other takeover that's going on in December is going to be on the 6th, which is also a Sunday. And are takeovers becoming full-on pay-per-views?
I mean, I kind of always felt they were like that. Like I to be fair, I only really started with TakeOver Toronto is when I started watching NXT proper. They've always had the feeling of like a regular pay-per-view. Again, I think it's just because of the quality of the black and gold brand. It holds itself out that way. So
I have a feeling that next week we're going to be seeing the matches that will determine who will face both the men's and women's NXT champions on that takeover. So we're going to go a little bit about that later on in the show. We'll continue on though. Speaking of I mentioned the NWA. Well, the United Wrestling Network, which is a conglomeration of the NWA, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, Arizona, and I believe there's another one in there that I can't. I think it's West Coast Pro Wrestling. They had their first weekly pay-per-view this past Tuesday. It was on Fight TV. I ended up going back and watching the replay because the actual initial airing had a ton of technical difficulties. David Marquez, who is the head of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, said it was actually an issue with Fight TV. So regardless of who it was, they're still running weekly, which is interesting, going back to the old TNA pay-per-view days when they were NWA TNA. We're going to have another pay-per-view next week. Thunder Rosa is going to be in action. I forget against who because my notes don't have them. I want to say Camille, but I could be wrong. But this past week, we actually had Mike Bennett taking on Nick Aldis for the NWA title, the 10 pounds of gold. Good match. Again, those tech problems were a pain, but once I got the actual show, it was wonderful. I think it was a really good match. And if you go out of your way to watch it, I think you will agree that Mike Bennett, wrestling as a guy who had nothing to lose and had everything to gain, listen, let's face it. He may have lost, but Mike Bennett in a losing cause was absolutely amazing and had Maria in tow. So there were a lot of really interesting stories there. Go back, watch it. Again, the United Wrestling Network.
Yeah, I might check that out. I'm curious about these tech difficulties like that. Were they fixed after you said their initial?
I think it was a broadcast issue. So in other words, if they were able to send it back to Fight in its completed form and Fight just aired it, I'm assuming there was some sort of Fight because they were taped shows already.
Yeah.
So maybe whatever they had didn't sync up or something happened.
So there was a clean version out there now though.
Yeah.
That it would be Fights then. That's good.
Yeah. And if you go to Fight right now and you actually order the show, it is actually replayed properly.
Sweet.
So I do recommend it. Speaking of recommendations, you know what? The WWE Day of series released their SummerSlam 2020 episode. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it yet, Tim.
I have not. I'm surprised that because we were talking about the 2019 one not that long ago.
2015.
2015? Oh, yeah. Ages.
They went way back. Yeah, they did one. They do one for every pay-per-view now. I'm not going to go too far into it. I just highly recommend it. The two main stories that they touch on are Dominic Mysterio in his first match, which is, his dad had his debut WWE match at a SummerSlam event in 2002. So it's pretty nice having that connection. And then they also brought up the Sonya Deville story, touching a little bit on her real life issues and how she still really wanted to have this match and the changes that kind of came about just to move her off screen for a little while she handles that situation in her real life.
Yeah.
Go out of your way, watch it. It's on the WWE Network. I believe it's on the free network. If not, it's only $10 a month. Yeah, I'm a shill. Here we are. Speaking of shills, because this is the speaking of segment, Pro Wrestling Tees is supposedly planning a service called Shoot.
Yeah.
Shoot is supposed to be like Cameo.
Yeah, I heard about this.
Now, for those who don't know, Pro Wrestling Tees works a lot with AEW and a ton of independent wrestling superstars. They do their merchandise. They do all sorts of t-shirts and hats and stickers and anything you could think of. Shoot is an interesting idea. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see something like AEW Shoot coming at you or any other smart type of business, because now is the time, considering all the conversations around WWE and what we talked about last week with the way that they are handling third-party like video ops like Cameo.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, now's the time to innovate. Like, they need to find different ways to bring money in, and obviously capitalizing on how easy it is to connect with people and the kind of star personas they're creating here. It makes a lot of sense.
You know what else makes a lot of sense? Our Indies of the Week. There are two this week, and I can't mess up this time, so we're going to talk about it. Our two Indies of the Week. First of all, we talked about them last week. We're going to talk about them this week. Warrior Wrestling Stadium Series is up again, and you know who's going to be there?
Joey Janela.
Joey Janela. Yes, Joey Janela, who last week was attacked by two masked men. And I will tell you, if you didn't see the show, one of the coolest things was that the weather in Chicago, where Warrior Wrestling was held, they were having really, really bad weather. They didn't know if the show was going to happen. They pushed it, and then they did it. And then while Janela was getting out of the ring after his match with Warhorse, two men in black with masks, a la Retribution, of course, popped out of a van and beat the hell out of Janela as the rain started to pour, and it got absolutely crazy. It was a real pro wrestling angle, and totally organic because,
yeah.
it's raining. Anyway, and it led them to break. It was a really, really good angle and a really interesting story that they're starting to tell. So if you get a chance, check that out. It's going to be Saturday, September 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Headline by Warhorse taking on Brian Pillman Jr. for the Warrior Wrestling title. And you're going to have Jordan Grace from Impact facing fellow Impact roster member Kimber Lee. And then Alex Shelley taking on Jonathan Gresham. Gresham, we're going to talk a little bit about in our ROH talk about the Pure title situation. So that's going to be real, real good. I'm excited for Warrior Wrestling.
We should just call this segment Where in the World is Joey Janela? But
I really, really thought about it. And Joey, if you're watching, you got to know this is because we love you.
Yeah.
And then next up, Beyond Wrestling, they are putting on their Shangri-La Magistral. And of course, who's going to be there? Puff. Those of you who don't know who Puff is, Puff was the large gentleman who came out during the Best Man Miro segment from AEW Dynamite a couple weeks ago. I guess it was last week, whenever you're listening to it, whatever it was. He was the big guy wearing shorts and a big Hawaiian type shirt. And he's a wonderful wrestler. We've seen him a million times, but Puff, he's the kind of guy that you want to see wrestle. And where can you see him wrestle? Well, this week at Beyond, Shangri-La Magistral. The Beverage Barons, Puff, and Megabyte Ronnie, who was also on Dynamite this past week, they're going to take on Nouveau Esthétique. Now,
was he on Dynamite or was he on Dark?
Oh, good question.
I think it was Dark.
He was on BTE. He was on Being the Elite as well.
Yeah. So I don't know anything about Megabyte Ronnie other than he's friends with Puff. Is his shtick that he's like a competitive eater? Love it.
And he legitimately is a competitive eater. And he's also legitimately a U.S. Army veteran. And he once took a shot at me on Twitter for something that I said.
Did you deserve it?
No, not at all. No one's ever going to say they deserve it, but I actually didn't deserve it. I was talking about a TikTok. It was a TikTok that had to deal with the Army. I don't know. I get it.
He was probably 30 hot dogs deep. No man could be.
He probably was. Anyway. So yes, Beverage Barons, Puff, and Megabyte Ronnie, they are taking on Nouveau Esthétique, also known as Still Life with Apricots. Yes, that is their name. They are a gender fluid wrestler. They go by they and them. And their partner, blank. No, that doesn't mean that they're going to be facing someone that is named. To be determined.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's a mystery opponent. Blank is the wrestler's name. Nouveau Esthétique. Or Nouveau Aesthetic, if you're an American. Okay. Still Life with Apricots and Pears.
Yeah, I'm looking them up right now.
Yep. I hope you really enjoy it. That's going to be this week in Indies of the Week. You want to talk a little about Impact? You watched Impact. I think I watched Impact too.
Ooh, we watched some Impact.
What'd you like about Impact?
What did I like about Impact? There were a lot of good things this week. Like, I enjoyed it, other than Josh Matthews.
Other than Josh Matthews.
Yeah.
That's just that's a going rate.
Yeah, from now on, he is my enemy. I liked that they acknowledged the 3 machine guns thing. That made me smile. It's like they were listening. What else did I like? That opening match was really, really good. Liked it.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know anything about Su Yung. I only know the Susie persona because I've just picked Impact back up.
So Su Yung was known as the Undead Bride when she came in. She wore a wedding dress slip type of thing that was covered in red, a la blood.
I do remember seeing this now. Okay.
Yeah, and she would just beat the hell out of everyone, and she was Knockouts champion. I think she had a few matches in Toronto at Impact Rebellion, and also the show that was before that. It was a Slammiversary show. Actually, my wife and I went to that show. That was her first ever pro wrestling event. That was fun. But anyway, watching Su Yung actually hit the panic switch, which is her finishing move, and then watching her start twitching as if she was going to start becoming Su Yung and not Susie, I was really into that. I thought that was a really cool story that needs to start getting told a little bit faster, because since Wrestle House has kind of been, not so great.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I'm looking forward to it. So this is her like face persona before she was a
Yeah.
heel. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm
Cool.
looking forward to seeing Rich Swann and Eric Young tear it up at Bound for Glory. They signed that match officially. It's going to be great. It has a story.
Yeah.
It has a great story. And it shows that guys like Eric Young, who were maybe underutilized in other places, are not underutilized when they come back to the places that they had great success. He was with Impact for so long. He deserves what he's doing right now.
Yeah, and that's like if we're going from the Ricochet rumor, like I wouldn't say AEW because they're chock full right now. I'd say come to Impact. Like he could do some really great stuff there. I don't know if he's ever been there. I've seen him as Prince Puma in Lucha, but that's it.
I don't think he's been in TNA or Impact.
Yeah, so I
And
think,
if I'm wrong, you can tell me in the chat.
yeah. I mean, I don't know what he's getting paid, but he can at least get a
Probably
little
not
bit more
enough.
attention.
Yeah, he will. I like Scott D'Amore calling out Moose during that one backstage segment. I like that Moose is using the TNA title as a prop and being called a wuss for being scared of EC3. And I really, really like it. As much as I don't love Chris Jericho, I do love Moose getting on the phone and talking with the demo god and calling himself the wrestling god as JBL, in the background of it, in his home in God knows where he is, just saying,
Somewhere in Texas.
What'd you say?
I mean,
It was a good match.
He's got all
Or a
that
good
money for
segment.
the lawyers, so we'll see.
Exactly.
Like, no, I really like this angle. Like, I thought that bit last week with the coach was hilarious. Like, it was so dumb and just great.
Oh, where the coach just kind of came in and eventually had EC3 attack Moose, and it was it was crazy and stupid. I love it.
Yeah.
I wasn't a super big fan of the 8-man tag. It was fine. Each team involved, they have a claim to the title. Ace Austin's gonna be huge if he keeps doing stuff like this. But tag titles are atop the Impact mountain, if you will. What do you think?
I mean, it was good. Throughout the show, they kept talking about their divisions, which I thought was kind of clunky and weird. It's like, just make a good show. I don't care that you have a good X division. I don't care that you have a good women's division. Like, you do. Stop saying it. Like, the stuff that needs to improve with Impact is not the wrestling. Like, I think generally they put on a good wrestling show every week. It's the stuff around it, like the distorted mics, like the weird commentary that's holding them back. Like, I think they've really improved a lot of their product. It's just, yeah, some of the promos get weird. There was a lot of talk about a couple of, like, there was Detroit eats their young, and Baltimore, like, you need to have like dragon fire and a lion's heart. And it's just like, man, at least the north of the US has some problems, but
Exactly. Well, next week on Impact, because the wrestling is always good over there, you've got Jordan Grace taking on Tennille Dashwood, formerly Emma in WWE, or Emelina if you were watching way late. You have Susie, we were just talking about, taking on Kimberly, who of course will be at Warrior Wrestling, as we were talking about earlier. Sammy Callahan takes on RVD because of course he is. It's finally time. And for a chance to face Rohit Raju for the X Division title, it's going to be TJP taking on Chris Bay, taking on Trey Miguel. That's going to be an excellent three-way, and I don't know what to expect out of it. Do you have any idea who's going to take a shot at Rohit?
I don't know. Any of them would be fine. Like, maybe Chris Bay, walk that back. That'd be good. I'd like all three of them would be fun. So I'm looking forward to that match. When was Rob Van Dam's talk show? Wasn't that supposed to be this week?
I don't think it happened. I think they did a whole, as we talked about, it would happen where it would be interrupted by Callahan before it even started. Because I remember last week you were saying, "Oh, we don't need another talk show."
But did I miss it entirely? Like, did they even talk about it?
Can't say I remember.
I don't think they did. I think they just dropped that.
Oh dear.
Just right now came to me because, like, I remember, kind of crapping all over it, and then it just wasn't there. Let me know if I'm wrong.
Well, you know what was there was the ROH Pure Title tournament that started this past week, and we had a doozy of a first round couple of matches. Jonathan, wow, this is British Rounds rules all over again. Jay Lethal takes on Dalton Castle. Jonathan Gresham takes on Wheeler Yuta. It was interesting to see. Jonathan Gresham and Jay Lethal, by the way, are the ROH Tag Team Champions. Lethal came out with his tag team title in the first match because he was in the very first match in the show. And then Gresham came out later on for his match against Wheeler Yuta, and he did not have his tag title. So the story going in is that Gresham not only really, really wants the Pure title and he's all in on this tournament, but also that he is the reason the Pure title came back.
Hmm.
So I think it'll be really interesting, this type of stories that you can tell, given this is a tag team that have dominated ROH for a long time. And we're going to see, where they end up as this whole thing progresses, this whole tournament progresses. I have who won over who. I'm not going to say it. Go to Ring of Honor. You can watch it for free. It is a wonderful show. The next episode features Delirious and Matt Seidel. Matt Seidel, who will be on Impact next Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday. We'll get to that later. And we're also going to see Rocky Romero from New Japan Pro Wrestling taking on David Finlay, also out of New Japan Pro Wrestling and various other places that you may have heard of. Take a look. Go to Ring of Honor's website. Check it out. It is a great tournament going on so far.
Nice. Yeah,
Have you looked at it yet?
I haven't looked at it, so thank you for not spoiling it.
I'm not going to spoil it.
I will take
Don't look at my notes.
Yeah, I'll just delete them.
All right, let's talk about favorites.
Oh.
Do you want to start SmackDown?
SmackDown. I liked Firefly.
British Rules rounds.
Firefly Funhouse. That was a lot of fun. I really. It didn't go the way I expected it to, which was let's Alexa Bliss right in there. Obviously that's going to happen eventually, but I liked that it kind of twisted my expectations there. The Vince McMahon parody was funny. Yeah, I really enjoyed that segment. Like I just I'm glad he's out of the title picture because I love that character. I just don't get why they would have him fighting for titles.
Give it time.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I do have to say this. I should have known better. I got caught up with the whole Alexa's the new character thing because I remember back at the beginning of September, there was the report that came out. The WWE had put together a copyright for Wobbly Walrus. And I was like, oh, Firefly Funhouse.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I wish I had thought about that when we were talking about it last week because now it just sounds like I didn't know any better because I had forgotten.
Oh, you made an error. That's fine. The dead parrot bit was funny too.
It actually was very funny. I enjoyed that very much. You know what else I enjoyed? I like Roman Reigns not giving a shit about his cousin and coming out later in the match to win it.
I love lazy Roman. This is like, I didn't dig Roman before. This feels right. Like with, again, I keep saying, a pretty limited move set. This is the perfect way to use him. Like if these 5 moves he's got are really, really strong, have him just stroll out and like wreck everyone and leave. Like
just like the shirt says.
Yeah, it's great. And he's so like just it's great. The attitude's great. I love it.
The other attitude that I loved was Bayley's attitude as she came out and gave that amazing Eddie Guerrero like heel promo, sitting in the chair just like Eddie did back in 04. Sorry, my brain is not going that far back, but either way, we remember when Eddie was a heel and Bayley completely just channeled that into her promo. Loved it.
Well, we were talking about the WWE Network content with Sasha and Bayley, and Sasha talking about her admiration of Eddie too, which is like a little bit of a layer to it that I really enjoy. So
both of them talk about Eddie all the time.
Yeah.
So bringing that in, absolutely, it had to happen.
It's great.
It's a big fan of it. What about Raw? What'd you like?
The cage match, like again, Dominic Mysterio, honestly, when he first showed up, I was like, okay, let's see what this does. Phenomenal. Like he really has impressed me every single week. I think that this match is a good blow off. If they please just move on now. Him and Seth have great chemistry. It would be nice to see if he can do the same thing with other people now.
I agree. I would like to see them move on. Unfortunately, I don't know how quickly they're going to do it because something that I liked from Raw was Aaliyah looking back just a little bit longer at Murphy as he was down on the ground as they all went into the cage to go check on Dominic. Is there a little bit of a spark there?
Yeah, seems like it. Damn, Mysterio whole family getting paid. Like
they all acting hard. And I like it.
Yeah, it's good.
It was great match. Great. The cage match was great. First time in the Thunderdome. They obviously couldn't hang the cage from above the dome, which I found interesting. They actually had to go in and set it up.
Yeah.
I was back in Thunderdome again this week. I know I buried the lead once again. I lasted 2 hours and 45 minutes this time, and that is a tiring, tiring experience.
Yeah, I caught some of your reactions,
Oh, that's right.
particularly the Keith Lee McIntyre match. There's like a couple like,
Yep. Amazing what you can do if you just play along.
yeah, it's fun.
Kids, they won't kick you out if you just play along.
That's what I tried. I gave them so much energy that first night, and they just weren't there yet. They got
Nope.
better. They got better.
They're there for you now. If you
Yeah.
make it, if you get a chance. By the way, this is between you and me and the rest of the world who's listening. I found out which days they release and what times they release the Thunderdome registrations.
Ooh.
I'll share that with you later.
Also, I just realized on this audio medium that we're recording for, I made some big faces during that silent period. You know, big open, gaping maws.
Perfect. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
What else I was there for Raw? I liked the ending of Raw. I enjoyed watching the Hurt Business come out and suddenly want to beat the shit out of Retribution. And by the way, Retribution is almost never in our favorites, but this week they are.
Yeah. It's because they're attached to the Hurt Business, who almost always are. I love that. I love what they're doing with that stable. I love Cedric's promo. Like, that was really funny. He put his little like whiny voice on. It was good. Like,
It was great.
It's a great story, which is things have been okay lately. There's good bits amidst some weird spots.
So far in Retribution, we've got Mia Yim, Mercedes Martinez, Dominic Dijakovic, Dio Madden, Shane Thorne. Who knows who else?
I don't know. You're
We
gonna
still
have
need a
to
leader.
you're gonna have to remind me who those last two are.
Dio Madden was the tall gentleman who was F5 by Brock Lesnar after the Royal Rumble last year. Tall black guy with the dreads, or he's got long hair.
Oh yeah, I don't remember him at all. I just looked him up.
Oh, that's unfortunate. And Shane Thorne is the Australian guy. He was part of TM61, and then his partner left, and he's just been kind of floundering through NXT for the last little while. These are all people who have a reason to want Retribution.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
Basically, everyone in Retribution appears to be NXT superstars who never held a title in NXT or never had any sort of rise to prominence in the promotion.
Yeah, they said something pretty clear about it today. Like, they're just, what was it? Yeah, it's definitely NXT, because they're just like, they talked about development and things like that and gutting reality. That was funny.
Yeah, spending a lot of time in the Performance Center.
That's
empty
what
promises, lies, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I'm just calling them
That's
retributionists now. There's a lot of retributionists. Like, there's clearly at least 5 core members, but then they just keep, like, I was very surprised when they pulled in like another bunch of them after they finished cutting the promo. Like,
one of whom had to be Malcolm Bivens, because I just saw his eyes and I was just like, oh, he's making those eyes, those like big Malcolm Bivens eyes, like I shouldn't be here, but here I am type of eyes.
One of them could not wear a mask properly. It was like
that was
down below their nose. Yeah, that's probably, I was just like, what is wrong with that one?
Oh man, on the other side of it, what did we not like about Raw?
There was a few things. Like, it was honestly like a pretty decent show overall.
We didn't even talk about what we didn't like about SmackDown, did we?
Oh, we'll get there. We're going into the notes now. We haven't talked about any of the bad stuff. What didn't I like Raw? I don't like that they're adding this in your face thing. Maybe you can provide context if you know what the hell that's about, but
Papa rating Vince McMahon style. It was the beginning of Monday Night Football. And football, smash mouth in your face, Tim.
Is that, I don't even know why football would bother with that. They don't need help.
Once upon a time, WWE Raw also used to try and do a whole gimmickry around a season premiere. This is back in the early 2010s. So anything to pop a rating is what Vince McMahon does.
Yeah, in your face sounds like it's made by a 14-year-old. I don't want to. Yeah.
Who do you think watches the product?
Oh, that's fair. Made by 14-year-olds for 14-year-olds.
That is right.
Yeah.
So you didn't like in your face. Alex Thomas in the chat just said the weird Garza and Andrade story.
Oh man,
and I think that may have been one of mine.
Garza just wants to smash, and Zelina won't let him. And you know what? I'm on his side.
I think maybe the bigger problem is that they keep teasing a breakup that they just never go to.
It seems like they just kind of fell apart last week. Like that's it. They just kind of flopped apart, and the
They've
whole thing went nowhere. Like
they've fallen apart since the PC days, like since when it was empty arena PC days. It's been ongoing since April, May, and there's just no end in sight. Well, maybe the end is now. Maybe Demi will come back and finally marry one of them, and then we'll be done.
and Garza will get the smash.
There you go.
It was like I mean Zelina coming out for the women's title, that just felt like the clunky end of it to me. Like the whole thing's messy, sloppy. I don't know what's going on. They're talented people. I don't know why they're being misused like this.
Yeah. Other thing I didn't like from Raw, Cesaro Nakamura lost. People were kind of up in arms, but here's the thing: they just lost to Lucha House Party.
Another person that I think like Ricochet just being misused is Cesaro. And I love Nakamura too. He had like a little bit of attention back in the day when he first came in. So like, he's on the quiet down phase of his run right now. But like Cesaro deserves better, in my opinion.
I think it's really funny if you listen back to old reviews of shows from 5 years ago, even you'll hear a lot of people, a lot of analysts in wrestling talk about how Nakamura can be a WWE champion in the next 2 to 3 years. If they can go back and listen to their words now, I think a lot of them are kind of eating them.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. He doesn't have a wide range on the promo front. So
going back to Demi, Alex Thomas pipes in with, Demi picks Andrade leading to Charlotte's return. Please don't put that into the ethos. I don't need it. I don't want it. It doesn't need to happen. I don't need to see it. Let's move on. What did we enjoy about NXT this week? You're going to give it to you first.
What did we enjoy?
But I feel like we're both going to like the same thing.
That opener was great. And they gave them the right amount of time. Like it wasn't a quick thing. It was really great to see like a 15-20 minute match that was just solid from start to finish.
Yep, absolutely. Shotzi and Io Shirai absolutely tore it up. It was a great match. Really gives Shotzi a really she deserves a chance at that championship in a one-on-one situation. That's what I want. And this was a non-title match last night.
Yeah.
So for them to go and run that, they have a lot of stock in Shotzi, which is great. Obviously, they do in Shirai, who is their women's champion. But I want to see what they can do next with Shotzi. Some people are saying that Shotzi maybe is going to plateau here. She can be the gatekeeper, or she can be something in the middle, but never the champion. I disagree with that. I see a lot more in Shotzi than some people might.
I think they haven't demonstrated any lack of faith in her. Like they've given her decent spots every week since she debuted or came back. I don't know if she was away, but
think about it. She came in, they gave her the tank,
yeah,
which they didn't have to do. And then when she had her car stolen and all she wanted was her helmet, like the craft services went and got a new helmet made for her.
Yeah.
They care.
Yeah.
Did I say hat? I meant helmets. But yes.
She's over. Like it'll be good. Like it's just Absolutely. Too quick. Like she'll get there.
Yeah, it's a great match. One thing I did love about that match was Shotzi being able to use cattle mutilation. They'll probably have to call it something else, but that's that underhook pushing down on it's a bridge where you got your arms hooked underneath and you push down. You'll see it in the match. You'll know. Really good, yeah. It's the one. It's the move that they all knew and they all couldn't talk about. So if you have a chance, go and watch it. And then Priest and Thatcher, great closing match. I know a lot of people were glued to NXT. Glued to AEW Dynamite at that time. But I had both going, and I can tell you, if you have a chance, go back, watch that final match for NXT because it was on top.
It was really good. Damian Priest had his sexy pants on, so
that's all I want out of my life is just more sexy pants.
Sexy pants.
All right, AEW. I'm going to take this one because yes, the street fight was top notch and it was great. But I have something else that I love even more, and I'm going to cheat. I'm going to tell you that being the Elite this week, if you watch it on YouTube, normally it's okay. This week it was fantastic, and I am really, really ready for being the Dark Order because every single week that is the segment to watch. Go watch it. Right. I love the Bad Bucks story too. I love the idea. We talked about at the top of the show. The Bucks can just go super kick a referee and just here's the money. What you gonna do?
It was pretty great. Yeah, okay. That's cool. I mean, that main event was incredible though. And there were a few parts where I was like legitimately, how are they gonna do this in any way that's like safe, but they did like a really real. Well, I mean, and safe is it's kind
It's
of
a
a
relative term.
questionable. Yeah, considering that windshield, the windshield business seemed pretty brutal. Um, I love the finish. Orange coming out was great. Um, it's very clear to me that JR doesn't know how to build things. He called what was very obviously too small to be a 2x4, a 2x4. That was great. Overall solid match with like amazing spots. Probably one of the best like parking lot brawls I've ever seen.
Tony Khan after the match was asked about the match, and he said it was done in one take, and the only editing that was done to it was removing an F-bomb that was dropped.
Wow. Like
Pretty incredible.
I didn't even know Best Friends had that in them. Like it was really, really good.
Go back, watch some of the New Japan stuff. There's some really cool stuff in there.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it was fun. Puffs in the background too with Daniel Garcia and Blackwood.
Yep. Yeah, and Blackwood, who had gotten absolutely demolished earlier by Eddie Kingston and the boys.
Yeah. I was saying during Dynamite, like the whole stage left was just where they kept the victims because like Lance Archer came out, and just grabbed one of them too. Like
That's how it is.
also
In AEW. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, you were mentioning I was complaining about choke slams. You brought up Lance Archer's good choke slam this week. Dug it.
See?
Yeah.
There you go. Sometimes you just have an off week. Sometimes the humidity just gets to you.
Oh.
And sometimes Tegan Knox cuts a promo.
Yeah,
Talk to me.
so NXT again, like solid show through and through. I wanted to pick like a type moment, and for me that was the promo that Knox delivered. Like her package with Gargano and LeRae last week, her parts are really clunky, whereas like Gargano and LeRae cut a separate one this week that was very good. Like I liked their promo. Tegan's response was just like awkward to me.
Yeah, there was a lot of headroom for those of you who know anything about camera placement. Just like half of the shot was just her ceiling.
It
or her
looked like
walls
a
behind
cell
her.
phone video, so I missed
It did,
yeah.
and not a very good one.
No,
It was, yeah. I didn't like it either. I also didn't like, to be honest, I don't like having two gimmick matches to decide your women's and men's title number one contender. Especially because one of them is a number one contendership battle royal, which we just did for the women to get a shot when this was what back in earlier in the year.
Yeah,
they did this earlier.
A lot. Like
I think there are 4, maybe 5 women that you can just lump from that group and put them in a match, and then have that match go on. The winner of that match take on Io Shirai. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, like they're having a hard time right now because I think they need to develop more people. Like they've a lot of people got sucked out now, and there's a deficit, and they need to take the time to actually grow things. And I guess they can kind of do that with the battle royal. That's probably why they're doing it. But
the saving grace of that battle royal is the fact that everyone involved in it has some sort of story going into it, with the exception of Indy Hartwell.
Yeah,
everyone else has some sort of tag team or newly lost mojo in the case of Xia Li from last night.
Yeah.
So everyone has something in it, but it doesn't need to be there. It's not going to advance many stories in one match, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then with the men's titles, listen, it's going to be an interesting match. We can talk a little bit more about it next week when it happens, but that gauntlet eliminator is going to be good. Unfortunately, I hate putting this out in the ethos. I think it's just going to lead to Velveteen Dream getting a title shot.
Yeah.
I don't need it. So instead, we'll move on to what we didn't like about AEW. So tell me, what did you not like?
I mean, again, like a pretty solid show overall. I think the Thunder Rosa Ivelisse match was good. It was a bit weird to me.
Like maybe a little stiff?
Yeah, Thunder Rosa seemed a little bit frustrated. She had like given her a few smacks early on, and then like a couple of hair pulls that looked a little rough.
Let's just say that Ivelisse has never been the easiest person in the world to work with.
Yeah, like I don't know any of this background, but I do know like there was one sequence in particular where she was shoved into the turnbuckle, got kicked in the face, and she was clearly just like watching for the spot. Like she got kicked in the face and was just like fine with it.
Yep.
It was odd. And like if I'm picking up on it, like it's like she was not even aware they were on camera. Like
Yeah, so that's the thing with Ivelisse. If she's not happy, she lets everybody know about it.
Oh, that's
And when she
dumb.
doesn't want to play ball, she lets everybody know about it. And Thunder Rosa is very well liked in her circles. And she takes the NWA title and the NWA prestige that comes with it very seriously.
Yeah, she's
If you
great.
listen to her interview on Talk is Jericho, and I don't reference Talk is Jericho very much, but here we are.
Like every
If you,
week.
that's right. If you listen to it, she is very upfront about her experiences in wrestling, and she's only been wrestling for I think about 6 years. So she's serious, and she's still new to this business, but she's still a hardworking woman in this business.
Yeah, she's
So
great.
she wants to see it succeed. I didn't like it either. I didn't like the match. I like Thunder Rosa. I'm not surprised that Ivelisse did what she did.
Yeah, it just felt weird to me, like the whole time.
Yeah. And I'm gonna cut some heat here, but I didn't really like MJF's promo either.
So I liked the promo. Where it's going, I think is a weird decision. Like I don't want to see him in a faction. Like as someone who a couple episodes back said like I like factions, and I do. I don't think him being in one is necessary at all. So I'm a bit disappointed that that's where they're going with it post Moxley.
I get it. You got to tell something of a story moving forward. You got to use the whole "I never lost because it was an illegal move. I should therefore be the champion." I don't know. It doesn't do it for me. I know for others it does. It just didn't do it for me.
I think he could have come up with a more ridiculous name. like what he was like, call me the undefeated, undisputed AEW champion. I was like, you could have come up with something silly.
Speaking of something silly, tomorrow night on SmackDown, there is a rematch between our favorites, Baron Corbin and Sheamus. They're going to take on Jey Uso and Roman Reigns in a Samoan street fight.
What is that?
I don't know, but Roman has to start the match. Okay. That's the hook.
Cool. I mean, that's kind of funny. I don't know what the hell a Samoan street fight is. I assume it's similar to anybody's regular ass street fight, but
it's going to be the same as a Texas street fight. It's going to be the same as a New York street fight.
Yeah.
Chicago street fight. Toronto street fight. We've seen those. Montreal street fight. I saw that one. They wanted to call it a Florida street fight, but they're, it's Florida. Everyone's there.
Yeah, that's just
didn't really do it for me either. And then Sasha Banks is going to be out tomorrow night on SmackDown. They didn't specify that she's going to be in the ring. They didn't say she's going to be in the Thunderdome. I'm wondering if they're going to do a interview segment of some sorts or some sort of backstage or live via satellite segment.
Yeah, it'll probably be weird like the Alexa, her promo from a few weeks back, like one of those talking head interview ones.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't need to see her on my screen just yet, but also A, the whole Mandalorian thing, B, the whole gonna be a match at Hell in a Cell thing.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are still waiting for Mania. That's a long way away. So we got to strike while the iron's hot. And Sasha's back next week, I guess.
Quick.
Or maybe not. Maybe it'll be Bayley coming out in a big Sasha wig and, being a total chicken blank heel. And I think it'd be funny.
Yeah.
I'd love it.
I mean, it's like the Darby Allin, Ricky Starks story, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just come out and say, I love Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
It works for me. Yeah. You know what? We did it. We made it to an hour. We can talk about what's going on next week on NXT. The only other thing on NXT next week, other than what we've talked about, is Jake Atlas versus Tommaso Ciampa. Take a look.
He's so adorable. Jake Atlas is adorable. That was great.
I like where Kyle O'Reilly fits into this, and we're going to see what happens next. Okay. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on down the road. Next week, if you're going to watch Dynamite, be prepared because they're actually going to have 2 episodes, presumably. They're going to do a Tuesday late night Dynamite that'll happen after the NBA game, and then another full edition of Wednesday night Dynamite where they've already announced matches for both. We can run them down, but
so that really, is what happened. What is happening though, right? Because I saw that announcement and I was like, wait, they're being pushed to Tuesday, so there is 2.
Yeah, they're promoting what is essentially 3 hours of Dynamite. So an hour late night Tuesday and then 2 hours on Wednesday.
Okay, that makes
it could change again for all we know.
Because I mean, there was talk of them getting an extra hour-long show, and then I was like, wait, they're getting bumped like to Tuesday and halved. But okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, this is just a special thing for playoff time and TNT and all that stuff.
Cool.
So I think we made it to the end, and we can talk about all these other things on another special thing that we might be doing sometime down the road. Maybe a new partnership of some sorts that I've been hearing down the wire.
Wow.
Maybe we'll tell you later on Twitter. Maybe we'll tell you in another space.
Maybe you should
But
subscribe.
maybe you should subscribe to us on YouTube. You can subscribe to us everywhere you find us on any audio podcast platform. And let's just say that our future might just be unlimited. So until then, Tim, let wrestling put a smile on your face. World, enjoy the rest of your week. And go check out the Mr. Warren Hayes show if you're watching it live right now on YouTube. He's running, and so are we. We're going to go over there to his chat room. Thanks, everyone. Have yourself